Hey everyone, welcome in to another daily editorial here on the KE Report. We're getting an update from Aztec Minerals, traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol AZT and on the OTCQB under the symbol AZZTF. Chatting with Simon Dykowski, President and CEO of Aztec Minerals. We're going to be recapping the news that came out just yesterday, January 30th. 10 RC drill holes from the Cervantes project focused at the California zone. Now, the Cervantes project in Mexico, Aztec is the 100% owners of this asset, and these 10 holes were the final 10 holes from the drill program that was focused on stepping out at the California zone. I'll post figure 1 from the news release. It shows the location of all the drill holes. Simon, just refer to this figure 1 first and foremost. You stepped out in pretty much every direction from past drilling. What did these drill results yield? Big picture for last year's program.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on to talk about our results here. We got our final 10 holes out. Just the gold numbers. We haven't yet analyzed the multi-element, but those are coming in, and we'll have more to talk about those over the coming weeks. But, as you suggested here, what's the big picture takeaway? It's really twofold for us. So one of it is growth. We're finding more mineralization off now closer to the edges of the California zone ridgeline. And it's basically a mountain about 300 meters tall and now drilled off to the extent of about 1 kilometer collar to collar from, let's say hole 39 down to hole 42. We're getting a big, massive volume into our model. Most of the holes have hit, significant widths and heap leach style oxide grades of anywhere north of 0.4 grams per ton gold in oxides. And most of the mineralization in the California zone ridgeline is from the drill collar. And you can see, obviously, that in some of our cross sections, but you can also see, just looking at the topographical photo, orthotopo view of the ridgeline, there's big zones of the ridge that don't have any vegetation on them. That is due in part to having a very high metal content in the soil. So we're really excited about this oxide cap. The 10 holes continue to grow the zone, and in particular, hole 34, 35, 42, 44, those were all drilled on the west of the ridgeline and trending towards the valley bottom. So unfortunately with these holes, we were drilling dry, so without the support of a water truck. And once we hit the water table, which at the bottom of the ridge, at the little valley bottom there, it's a lot shallower than it would have been at the top of the hill. We hit the water pretty quick, and that created some instability in the drill holes. And unfortunately, weren't able to take them the distance, but still expanded in that direction. And, particularly in the case of, say, 34, 44, and 35, we've now vectored in on a very, very interesting expansion target that's now completely off the California zone ridgeline and trending towards the northwest of that main primary target that we have been working on the past few years. And that's a coincident aeromagnetic low over top of, or in conjunction with an elevated gold in soil anomaly and elevated levels of gold in rock chip samples. So those three factors there line up really nicely. We've just tested the edge of this anomaly, and that's, particularly with hole 34, we can see the gold mineralization really picked up at the bottom of that hole as we're heading into that mag low. So that could be a source of sulfide mineralization. So we're pretty excited about that. So I'd say, in sum, the growth on really all directions of the California zone, and also this sort of new confidence in that northwest zone, a new target, would be the key 2 takeaways from our recent drilling program.
Well, Simon, those are 2 good takeaways because your team has consistently hit mineralization in the oxide cap, and almost every hole is mineralized to a different degree. But with that anomaly to the northwest, it begs the question of what's coming in the next drill program. What's coming next, Simon? And the other thing is the California North target that you put a couple holes in. There's that whole area in between it. So how do you envision, I know you don't have the exact plans out yet, but how do you envision some of the follow-up drilling to follow up on the work you did in 2023?
Yeah, no, great question. Obviously budgeting and markets have come into play for us over the past year and a half, 2 years really, as the liquidity's dried up on the venture for all explorers, right? Let's be honest. It's been a tough go for a lot of companies. So we've had to make tough choices. And, one of the tough choices that we made last year was to, preserve our share structure by curtailing the full program that we had permitted at Cervantes from about 4,200 meters. We cut it down to 1,600 meters, and we executed on the sort of the 50 to 70 meter step outs around the main grid of drilling that we've completed before, and then saved the permitting of the called the phase 3B program, or the second 2/3 of drilling, so another 2,500 plus meters. That's planned for more step out style targets. The zone you mentioned, California North, looks to be a very, very strong candidate to be expanded on with a more robust drill program. Also to the northwest and just off that California zone ridge to the west looks, really interesting now with the recent results. So we do need to spend some time now in the field in the dry season, working up those targets, tweaking them, moving them around, really, really stretching the dollar efficiency of our exploration budget. So a couple of months of work on that. And then we'll be keeping the market regularly updated as to how those targets are developing. But, what I can say about them now is that the recent drilling has answered quite a few questions for us that we hadn't had answers to previously, and that really is that we don't think the mineralization is necessarily cut off on the north slope of the California Ridge. We think that we are drilling into unconnected blocks or xenoliths of metasediments, which aren't as well mineralized as the quartz feldspar porphyry stock and the hydrothermal breccias that have hosted the gold in other parts of the ridgeline. So key takeaway is it's not a defined limit, and we do believe that there's a very good chance that the system connects up with California North, where we have seen in 2 holes that we drilled there last year and the year before that there is a continuity of the gold system. They're a little bit deeper down the hole, so there could be a bit of a slight dip to this system towards the north and the northwest. And if that theory holds together, if it is dipping gently to the northwest and to the north, that really bodes well for that coincident mag-low and golden soil and golden rock chip anomaly just off of the California zone and California North zone ridges. So that's how we see the target really growing over the next couple of months, and then we'll sit down with our key shareholders and board and decide if it's the right time to go and pull the trigger on that already permitted phase 3B drill program at Cervantes.
So Simon, going back through some of the past drill programs at the California zone target here, you had hit some higher grade drill results here. Back in 2022, you had some drill results that were 137 meters of 1.5 grams per ton gold, 165 meters right at a gram per ton gold. Those also included some higher grade components. Is there a certain area within that California target that is generally of a higher grade that you could work on further isolating in future drill programs?
Those answers are emerging in our modeling efforts, and there's really 3 main zones along that ridge. So there's a zone to the east, which we recently, in our reconnaissance work while we were drilling, discovered that the alteration in mineralization signature that hosts the eastern, call it a zone of mineralization along the ridge, extends for yet another 400 meters along strike. So we've mapped that, and we plan to go and sample it to confirm, but it gets a lot longer in strike. And then the central zone, the central California zone, does carry a higher grade at the crest of the ridge. So that's, for potential mine scheduling, down the road. That's very positive to have a lot of high grade very near surface for considerations such as payback. And then there is this western zone that has some high grade signatures now that seems to be growing, especially with hole 34. So And to answer your question, I think we're isolating now the western zone as one to focus in on and see if that continues off into the mag low. I mean, the 5 feet or 1.52 meters of 13.8 grams gold towards the bottom of that hole, certainly is one of the higher grades that we've drilled in this entire system. And the fact that that's also the biggest real step out is pretty significant as well, and something that we're, pretty excited about and pretty keen to follow up on.
Yeah, Simon, it seems like it would be nice to test it at depth if the gold grade was getting even better at depth. But also, could you maybe just speak to a comment you made early on in this discussion, and that is you're still waiting on the multi-element assays back, but over towards the Jasper target, when you guys put a hole over there, it seemed like there was a little bit more of a copper signature along with the gold. So maybe just speak to the fact you may have gold and copper.
Yeah, well, we know we have gold and copper, and we're seeing a bit of a trend where at the east part of the California zone, there's very little copper, and there's good gold grades, and then as we head towards the west of the ridgeline, you start to see the gold grade drop off and the copper grade pick up, and then at Jasper, you actually see the gold completely drop off and the copper really kick up. We've only had really 2 tests into Jasper. Both were quite interesting, albeit sub-economic, just in the very shallow drilling that we did there. And, it's certainly still true that the project geology, it is a pore-free style of system. I mean, we're obviously still very high up in it in our model in the oxide cap. And, the copper numbers have yet yielded something that's, truly kind of game-changing for the project. But yeah, I mean, certainly as we get the multi-elements back from the additional drill holes, get them modeled up, start to understand better the relationships and the mineralized, the controls of the mineralization through the system, we're going to have a lot more ammo to go and decide, should we swing for a bit of a deeper hole or, in which target, in which area. That should all become a little bit more apparent to us over the coming weeks. I mean, we're just getting this data in real time right now and getting it over to our technical people to make sense of. So yeah, I mean, definitely, the sulfide copper gold source of this system, if and when found, represents, potentially a spectacular upside for our shareholders.
All right, well, Simon, when we get more information on what you're going to be doing back at Cervantes, we'll follow up. As of right now, though, let's talk about Tombstone in southern Arizona. What plans do you have to move Tombstone forward in the near term?
Yeah, so Tombstone and Cervantes will see concurrent or nearly concurrent field programs over the coming weeks and months. And at Tombstone, we really feel that it needs to be followed up on, from the sense that we drilled Tombstone about a year ago now and had some phenomenal high-grade gold-silver results and a little bit of a challenging ground condition. Unfortunately, during that program, we weren't able to drill all of our targets because of, as I mentioned, ground conditions and challenges with our drill rig. Which is very common to many exploration companies operating in the Great Basin, particularly in Arizona and Nevada. But we kind of left our story on a bit of a cliffhanger there, with our last couple of great results being bonanza grade silver in our deepest test, and more step outs of higher end grade, potentially leachable material. For example, hole 5 last year returned 36 meters of around 5 grams gold equivalent right from the surface. So anyways, we really want to build on that. And, we think that the time for that is coming this year. We haven't, formally announced anything. It's still in the planning stages, and we do expect to be communicating those plans to the market also over the coming weeks and next couple of months here. So we're getting fired up about Tombstone again as well.
Okay. Thank you very much for the update here, Simon. I'll follow up if any more news, when some more news comes out. And if anybody has any follow-up questions, please email us. We'll get Simon to address those. I will also post a link to the most recent news release that we were discussing. Thanks for your time, Simon. We'll chat again soon.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity.